Partly because of the timing, how we'd like to do this and make it look as seamless as possible. Tom Mulcair is on his way. He's in a taxi, maybe a minute away, maybe 3 minutes away. What I wanted to do before getting really into the substance of what the shorter do.
They're singing the chorus.
Great. So. Well, I started this by saying with no further ado, and I think, frankly, that's an appropriate phrase to continue. I think everybody by now knows Tom is the leader of the official opposition, leader of the NDP. He took over roughly 18 months ago. He's been doing an absolutely amazing job, and one of the things I really value about working with Tom is that remaking Canadian democracy is at the very heart of his being. He's been in parliamentary politics for several decades, and he knows the problems and the potential better than anybody else. And when I talk to Tom, I know there's somebody who's committed to not just the reform of our electoral system, but reform more broadly of our democracy. And I'd like to say that it's a real pleasure, Tom, that you would make time to come tonight, because there's another event scheduled elsewhere in the city that Tom is also going to be making time for, but he found the moment to come and say a few words to us, and we should have a little bit of time for Q&A before he has to scoot. Tom.
Thank you very much. I'm going to try to see if this is going to work. Can you hear me up there? To see, like, I learned my politics in French and I talk with my hands. So if I don't have to carry a microphone with me, I'd just as soon not. I want to say, first of all, thank you very much to my friend and colleague Craig Scott for inviting me here. And Peter, nice to see you too. Nice to be here. It's been a busy day for us on this front, because we were in Ottawa talking about this very subject today. And it's a bit of an irony, of course, because this is what Elections Canada had designated well in advance as being Democracy Week in Canada. A bit of an irony there, because I was at Parliament, but you might have noticed that the doors are padlocked. So Craig's been doing an amazing job of going from coast to coast to coast, meeting with people, taking notes, consulting, hearing their views and ideas. And I'll give you some of ours today. We've had this position for over 40 years, as you know. The NDP, going back to when Ed Broadbent took over, has always had the same position, that in a democratic society, the votes have to be counted, and every vote has to be counted. Hi there, Andrew. I didn't see you there. Andrew Cash. Jeez. You're so discreet.
So that's the end of the high use.
Look, it's not a very complicated proposition. All you have to do is remember that Stephen Harper is ruling with 30-some-odd% of the vote. He's got a majority of the seats, and he's ruling like someone who doesn't have to listen to the will of Parliament. To put it another way, he's the first Prime Minister in Canadian history who believes that he's the master of Parliament, not its servant. So we don't even have to look at the base question of proportional rep, which I'll get to in a minute. Just look at the behavior in the House of Commons. A record number of days of prorogation in modern history, an all-time record for having recourse to the guillotine, to shutting down debate using closure. It's never been done before like that. It's almost as if Parliament was an afterthought. You know, he doesn't really hold cabinet meetings anymore either. And so to talk about proportional rep, which is a position long held by the NDP, and something that we're going to be seeking a mandate on in 2015, we believe sincerely that in our society people are ready for that move. We're talking about it now while we're still in opposition, because we want people to understand that we're seeking a mandate to move on this in 2015. We're serious about it. It's a strongly held view. It's a question of principle. We know that there have already been a half a dozen or so reports from 5 provinces. There was an interesting report from the Law Reform Commission. Canadians understand this. There are other Commonwealth countries that had the first past the post system that have modulated it. We've always talked about a mixed proportional system. We think the Canadians will be able to follow us on that. We're going to keep up this fight across the country. We're going to keep meeting with Canadians. We're going to keep sensitizing them to the fact that we're serious about this. We know that it's important change, that it's the type of change that won't take place without strong support across our society. There has to be adhesion to this idea, but it's something that we'll take on head on. And after that, the next election after 2015, we will finally, in Canada, have a mixed proportional system. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.